Recently I made this candy orbit, and some people have been asking how I made it, so today I'm going to show you how. Yippee. Okay, so obviously you're going to need some colors. It's going to depend on like whatever you're doing. You can modify this to not make a Tally Hall member if you're not obsessed with Tally Hall. But something that I do want to say is I took a lot of inspiration from Cosmic Makes Kandi. She made like a few characters from Arcane and a Taylor Swift. So yeah. Okay, so I just cut an arm's length of string. I have no idea how much string you're gonna need. So as long as you know how to like tie more string on, like it's a lot easier to just cut arm's length of string so you're not having too much string to work with. So yeah. Also, you're gonna need the stitches that you are gonna need to know is multi-stitch and like the stitch that you use to close off like the little octopus things, you know, like this, like the little square on top. I'll show you how to do that. Also, there's no specific stitch to like attach the arms and legs. It's just like, yeah. Anyway, I'll stop rambling and actually teach you how to make it. So I went into, for the head, I went into the candypatterns.com, and I just made like a little pattern, multi-stitch pattern for his head. So I'm gonna put that on screen right now, and I'm gonna modify it to be Zubin. Okay, so this is 16 beads. This is just like the first, like treat it as you're making one of these like multi-stitch cuffs, except for it's a lot smaller. So this is gonna be the first row, has 16 beads, and obviously following the pattern. All right, so now that you have all your beads on your string, you're gonna tie it off. Make sure it's like closer to the end of the string so you have a lot of tail end, and then you're gonna cut off this little part. You don't need a beading needle, but it helps a lot. So you're gonna grab your needle or just your string, and you're gonna start adding beads according to the pattern, like just a multi-stitch. And if you don't know how to do a multi-stitch, it's pretty easy. You can like look it up on YouTube, Kandi multi-stitch, or you can just follow this bad tutorial right here. Okay, so I printed out the pattern, and you can see I'm crossing off the beads that I've added, which is the first row. By the way, this is the pattern for Rob. Anyway, back to the actual beading. You're gonna grab one bead and you're gonna string it on. So see, my string is coming out of this bead. So the next bead is this one. So I'm gonna string it through that one, skipping this bead like this. And then you're gonna keep repeating that. So I'm gonna add a bead here. Also make sure you're paying attention to what beads you're adding, because I totally added the wrong bead. So I went back and yeah, you're just gonna continue like the add bead, skip bead, and go through that bead, and then add bead here, skip bead there. I'm gonna go all the way around. Also, you're gonna be adding 8 beads each row. So I've already gotten 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Okay, so now that I've gone all the way around, I'm gonna go back up through this first bead that I added so I can continue going around. And you're gonna be repeating that process until you finish the pattern. So I'm gonna finish my pattern and then come back. So I just remembered that Zubin has a darker skin tone than this, and so this is like not gonna work. So I'm gonna redo this, and okay, one embarrassing mistake later. So I'm gonna teach you how to close off the head. This is the exact same as like the little octopus thing, if you've ever like made that. Except for I'm gonna make it like, yeah, on the head. Anyway, so you're going to add a bead and then skip a bead. So I'm gonna show you that. So after you've added this bead right here, you're going to go through the bottom of this, so through this bead, and then come out the top of this bead. And then you're going to add, okay, so now I'm coming out of, I added a bead, went through this bead, through this bead, through this bead. I'm gonna add another bead and then skip another bead. Again, I added a bead and then I skipped a bead, and so now I'm coming out of the top of this one. Okay, so I've done that all the way around, so there are 4 beads sticking out. 2, 3, 4. So now you're gonna go back through this bead, through this bead, through this bead, so you're going out the top of this first bead that you added. Okay, so now that I'm coming out of the top of this bead, I'm going to add a bead and then go through this bead. So it's basically skipping these beads so I can kind of make a square on top, like you can see on his head. It's like a little square on top. So I added my bead and then went through this bead, and then I'm gonna pull it pretty tight so it kind of cinches and starts like becoming the top of the head. Again, I did that again. I went through this bead, so I added this bead, went through this bead, and I'm gonna do that all the way around until I get to like this. Okay, so now that I have my little square on top of, my little square on top of his head, I'm going to tie it off. So if you don't know how to tie that off, what you're gonna do is you're gonna grab your needle, and you're gonna, so you can either take your string and go through the beads down here diagonally, like that, and then come out of this end, or you can just cut your string right here after tying it off securely, and then you can go back down here and tie your string right here. Also, if you're confused like why I'm not showing you like every single step by step as I'm doing that on camera, I don't have a camera stand, so I'm just like using my phone and telling you what to do and then doing it. I hope this tutorial is kind of easy to follow, but I don't know. So yeah, stop rambling. What you're gonna do is you're gonna do basically the exact same thing you did for the top of the head on the bottom of the head. So you're gonna add a bead, skip a bead, add a bead, skip a bead, and then you're going to go through and like make the square. So I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna go around for the first layer. Okay, so now I've added a bead on each of the sides, and then I've gone through this, and then I'm back on my first bead that I added, and then I'm going to make the square. Also, if you want to stuff it like I did for him, now you should do that. So okay, so you're gonna need like one of these Walmart shopping bags or any shopping bag whatsoever, and you don't have to do this, but this just makes it so it doesn't go like that, and it instead it's like, it's still squishy but not as squishy. And also this it doesn't look as nice. If you have other stuffing, you can use whatever. I just like using plastic bags, but like it'll probably stick out of the neck a little bit, so it doesn't look as professional, but it works. For the head, you're probably only gonna need like a little bit of a corner of a shopping bag, so I'm gonna grab my scissors and just cut along here and just get the corner. So you're just gonna stuff it in there and take out as much as you need. Yeah. Also make sure to check the top of the head as you're stuffing it before you like close it off, that it's not like that, because I accidentally gave Rob a bit of a bald spot, because it's like, yeah, you can definitely see it there, so, you know, do whatever you want. Okay, so now that I've stuffed his head sufficiently, I'm going to close it off just like I did for the top of the head. Okay, so now that I've closed off the bottom of the head, I'm going to tie it off right here, and then I'm gonna, yeah. Okay, so now that I've tied it off, I'm going to put my head to the side. Yes, I'm going to detach my actual head and put it to the side. Go away. Also, I'll teach you how to do the neck a little bit later. That's how we're gonna connect the body to the head. Oh, also, do not cut this string off. Just leave a good tail end. And if you already did, oops, you can just tie it back on. It's not too big of a deal, but it's still just easier to just leave the tail end. So I made a little pattern for the tie and the body as well. I can also, I didn't publish them, so you can just like, you see this pattern right here, you can edit that and make it like according to whatever member you're going to make, or just whatever person, because you don't have to make a Tally Hall member if you're not obsessed with Tally Hall again. So yeah, I'm gonna also put the pattern to the tie on the screen, and I'm gonna print it out and tape it to my box as well. Rob is kind of like taller, and I mean, if it was any of the other members, I would have like made the torso, I made the torso smaller, but because it's Rob and he's the tallest member, it's fine. So I'm gonna remove like two rows or something like that off of this, just to make it a little bit more like how tall Zubin is. And don't ask me why I know all of their heights off the top of my head. Again, if you're not obsessed with Tally Hall, just take into consideration how tall the person that you are making is. Okay, so again, I cut an arm's length of string, and I'm gonna tie on more if I need any, but for the head I didn't actually end up needing any more. So if you're gonna make your own patterns, they're gonna be 16 beads for both the torso and the head. Okay, again, string on 16 beads, tie it off close to the end. Okay, so now that I have my 16 beads on, I'm gonna do the exact same thing for the torso. So I'm going to just do that because it's pretty straightforward. So yeah, I'm going to complete this part of the torso, and then the entire torso, and then I'll come back. Now I'm going to basically do the exact same thing as for the top of the head and the bottom of the head. And for this one, I'm going to kind of do like the corner cinching thing, so it's like extra sticks out. So instead of going through the bottom bead after I added the bead, instead of going through the bottom bead, I'm just gonna go through this one. Okay, so you can kind of see how the corners are like sticking out and stuff. So now I'm going to make sure to pull tight, like keep tension this entire time. So now I'm going to, okay, so now you can see like I've closed it off. It's just the square, but you can see like the plus. So make sure you're coming out of this bead, and then you're going to add another bead. So I'm gonna add a bead. Okay, so now that I have a bead on my string, you're going to add this bead by skipping this corner bead and going through this middle bead like this. So now it's like sticking up a little bit. So you're gonna do that all the way around. So I'm gonna add a bead, skip this white bead, and go through this middle bead. And you're gonna do that all the way around. So you'll have 4 sticking up. So now you can see I have 4 beads sticking up. So again, Mood Kandi explains this a lot better. So you can kind of see how it's going to fit like that. Make sure, so this is like the middle bead, and this is the corner bead. So the corner bead can line up with this corner. So I'm gonna make sure I'm coming out of this bead real quick. You can kind of see how it lines up. So you're gonna like pretend that you're stringing on another row. You're just gonna go through this bead and use this bead as if it's like just a regular bead, and you're going to string it on and then go through this bead. So let me show you what that looks like. Okay, so I strung this bead. This looks like a crime scene, jeez. Anyway, so I strung through this bead, and now I'm going to go back through this bottom like corner bead. So now you can kind of see it's like piecing together, and like this part is connected. So you're gonna do that all the way around. So like use this middle bead, string through this bead, and then go through this bead, and then string through this bead and go through that bead. So I'm gonna do that. Okay, so I did that like almost all the way around. So I'm gonna go through this bead and then go through this bead, and then I'll be like almost done. Okay, so now he has a neck. You're gonna make sure you want to pull it tight to avoid what happened with him. You can, his neck is very stretchy, and you can kind of really see it doesn't stay on very well. I also accidentally did that with the arm, but yeah, just make sure to pull it tight. And then after you're finished with that, you're pulling it tight, you're going to just tie like a regular knot with these 2 strings. So you're just gonna tie them together. Also, just a reminder, don't pull it too tight to the point where it's his neck snaps, so that's not gonna be great. Yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna tie it a few more times just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. All right, after you tie it tight enough, then you can just snip off the ends, and then I'll show you how to do the next part. So now that you have your little bowling pin, maybe I should just like not give them arms and legs yet, so I can just have a set of Tally Hall bowling pins. It'd be really funny. You're gonna stuff it with the plastic bag. Ooh, it looks really cool. You're gonna stuff it with the plastic bag, and then you're going to close it off again, exactly the same as you did with all the others. I realized I used the string from here and I cut it off, so I just like tied to the bottom so I could tie it off. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. You do this quite a bit, just the square thing, just tying it off. So grab 8 beads. You know the drill. Okay, so I've got my the sticky out beads. I'm going to make it square. Okay, so I closed off the bottom, and you can kind of see.
This is the mysterious doorman.
I am recording.
I do not care.
Okay, whatever.
Okay, bye.
That was my brother, by the way. But yeah, anyway, now that you have your bowling pin, you can just keep them like this because they're perfect bowling pins. So now I'm gonna do the arms first, and then I'll show you the legs. Okay, for the arms, this is very words. This is a very repetitive process. So basically, the arms are half the size of like the torso and the head. So instead of doing 16 beads around, you're going to do 8 beads around. I'm also using an arm's length of string because it worked both times, and so it's just the perfect length of string, I guess. You're gonna string your beads on, and then you're gonna tie it off, and you're gonna notice it's kind of wanting just to naturally be a square, and it's gonna be a square for a while, but eventually it'll become a not square. Yeah, you're gonna do the multi-stitch. The arms, I just did 3 rows of this color, and then I did 3 rows of like the next color before I tied it off. So I'm just gonna do multi-stitch again, just all the way around until I need to switch colors. Again, multi-stitch, add bead, skip bead, add bead, skip bead. Okay, so you can see how I'm like adding 1 bead and stuff. It's multi-stitch. I should probably just finish the freaking thing. Okay, so just to make sure you don't do what I did on Rob's arms, I accidentally made one arm longer than the other. You can kind of see it, but pretend that you don't. Make sure that so this is gonna be 3 rows tall, and then the next row that you're gonna add is one part's gonna be 3 rows tall, and one part's gonna be 2 rows tall. For like the part unsleeved. So yeah, I'm gonna finish that. Okay, so you're basically doing the same exact thing that so once you finish the arm, you're basically doing the exact same thing that you closed off the bottom and the top of the head and stuff. So you're gonna add a bead and then skip a bead and then add a bead. So it's gonna be just a smaller square. You can see right here. Okay, so now that you've gotten 2 beads sticking out, you're just gonna add a bead, go through this one, and add a bead like this. So now you're good to tie it off and then attach it to the body. So I'm gonna make the other arm and then I'll show you how to attach it. So yeah. Okay, so now that I got both of my arms, I'm going to be adding, so to avoid him looking like this, just T-posing, because yeah, we don't want that. I'm going to be adding 2 beads on this side, but not on this side. So it's a little bit of a slant, but it's not too much, but it's still like enough to work. So yeah. Okay, so now you can kind of see it's like just a little bit of a slant. It's not that much. So now I'm gonna tie that off. Do it on both arms, tie that off, and then we'll attach the arms. Okay, so now that I have both of my arms with like the little slanty thing, I'm gonna attach it to the body. So this part is a little bit hard. On this one, I kind of just like, well, I freehanded the whole thing, but like I kind of just like guessed where the arm would look the best, and you can kind of see my like attempts at doing that, trying to get it on, and it looks pretty good. So basically you're going to do the same thing as you did for the neck. So I'm going to attach the first bead of the arm, which is I'm going to move my string up here. I'm going to attach the first bead of the arm to like this little point right here that kind of sticks out. And so I'm going to be going out of this bead, and then I'll string this bead on as if it's just an independent bead, and then I'll go back through this bead, and then I'll like show you the next bead. Okay, so now that I've gotten that strung on, the next bead that I'm gonna do, so this is like a lot of like just guessing. The next bead that I'm gonna do is the one that's like right here, I think. Let me check. Oh, also, before you stitch the arms on, if you want to kind of stuff the arms to make sure that this doesn't happen, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it, especially if you actually do your stitches tight enough, then it should be fine, and there shouldn't be any holes. I just messed up on mine. It's just kind of letting the arm, like putting it in the right position, letting the arm, like this bead kind of lines up with this bead, so I'm just gonna string it on. Hopefully this makes sense and you can like understand it. I'm gonna like string on this bead and then go through this bead, so it's just acting like it's an independent bead, and it's gonna be a little bit crooked, but this isn't perfect. It's not a perfect little design. The next bead that I'm gonna string through is this one right here. I'm kind of just gonna string it on and then go through this bead. Sorry, I'm zooming in. Again, I'm holding my phone with, as I'm trying to show you with two hands. I'm gonna just go through that bead. And the last bead I've decided to put on is this one right here. Also, you can kind of see this arm's a lot like better made than these ones. And you can see how like short his arms are, but like his arms are gonna be a lot better, I think. But yeah, it's again, it's not a perfect pattern. After you've strung on your arm and you're happy with how it's like looking, then you're good to tie it off and then put on the other arm. And now I'm gonna do the exact same thing that I did for this arm to this other side, and making sure that you don't have to do this, like do whatever feels like best for you. But I'm gonna try and make sure that I attach the same exact bead, because this is a symmetrical pattern, so it looks kind of symmetrical, actually like well thought out. Okay, so now your guy has arms. So the next thing I'm gonna be doing is the legs. Actually, I think I'll do the hair. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to just like make a peyote stitch sort of thing, and I'm going to attach it here as his side swoop, and then I'm going to just add like 2 or 3 beads on either side to just like be a little bit of like floof, because like the back of the head is already like covered in black beads. So yeah, I'm gonna do that and then I'll be back. Yeah, he has hair now. Anyway, kind of side quest completed. Now we're gonna do the legs. Well, first I gotta, So now that I have my leg basically done, it's one part is 6 high and one part is 7. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing to close off the leg as I did like to close off the arm. So I'm gonna add a bead, and then I'm gonna skip a bead, and I'm gonna add a bead, and I'm gonna skip a bead, I'm gonna go through the top, I'm gonna add a bead and add a bead. So I'm gonna do that. So I did that. Now I got my leg. So now I'm going to make the other leg and making sure to make the exact same length, and then I'm gonna show you how to attach the legs. So I'm going to start starting the leg on at this like little point thing right here. I'm going to go through this bead. I'm going to go through this bead so it's a little bit more even, and then I'm going to go through this bead like this. Also, as you're starting on, don't be like too worried if like your legs start sticking out. I have something to fix that. So I'm gonna do that all the way around, just the same as like the arms, just thread it on however you think it's going to fit on best, and try and do it like so. I'm gonna finish this leg and then move on to the other leg. My first leg on, I'm going to tie it off and then cut off the extra string and then move on to the next leg. So I'm going to do the exact same thing I did for this leg, I'm gonna make it like, it's not gonna be perfect, but I'm gonna try and make it like slightly symmetrical. So it's gonna be using like the same sort of placement. Also, you can stuff the legs right now if you want to. I don't think it's necessary, but you can if you want to. So I'm going to sew this leg on, and then I'll show you how to make sure they're not like spreading. So now he has legs, but his legs are like very far apart. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna just grab a string and attach two beads together. That's what I did right here. You can see it right there. So it doesn't go anywhere. Strung this bead and this bead together, and I'm just gonna tie a knot here. Once you've tied it, you can cut off the ends, and then I'm gonna try and like tuck the knot away in this bead so you can't really see it. Now you're finished. Now you have a candy person. Yay! So I'm probably going to, sorry if this tutorial wasn't helpful for you, but you know, this is more of like an intermediate, like you've been making candy for a while, but yeah, ta-da! Anyway, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and hopefully I did not bore you to death.